Hey gamers, what's up? I'm doing a live video today because, well, I just don't have time to do anything else. I have no time for editing. The show is coming up this weekend, and I am going to be so ridiculously busy that just the idea of editing video and footage and everything just really stressed me out. So I decided what I would do is I wrote down a few questions that I get a lot, like really often, and I thought I would just answer those questions on a live video. So I'm just going to give that a shot and see what happens. First, I want to talk about just like what's going on. I got the show this weekend. It's CTS Promotions, the Columbus Toy Show, and there's a lot happening with that. It takes a huge amount of work, and aside from having the store running, I'm also packing up some stuff and taking it with. So I'll have L1 games running here at the mall. I'll have L1 games running at the show, and we'll have Nerdco at the show. So I'll have yet another company. So I'll be running three businesses at the same time. Though, in all fairness, when it comes to the shows, Eric does a vast amount of the work involved with all that. So he really takes the brunt of the work, and I just kind of am there. So I will help with the setup and everything. I might sell a few things, but for the most part, I'll be running around the show all day, and they'll be selling Nerdco and probably some L1 stuff as well. We normally have some people come and hang out and help out. So that's just how it pretty much works out at the shows. But it's a highly stressful time for me, and I'm just trying to get everything squared away. I still have a ton of stuff to pack. I've got a ton of totes over here. You want to see? Look, I've got a ton of totes over here that I need to fill. I've got a ton more totes, a bunch of stuff I'm going to be taking off the walls. So it's really just a huge amount of work and a lot of stuff I have to get together to get it all squared away. Am I blurry now? I'm blurry now, but that's better, I think. Anyway, so moving on, one of the questions or suggestions I get a lot is where people ask me if I'll tell them like stories about crazy customers and everything. A lot of times I don't do that. And I don't do that because I feel like maybe it's bad business to on the YouTube channel that I promote at the store that promotes the store for me to be saying negative things about customers. So I kind of stay away from doing that. And it's one of the most suggested things. I think a lot of it is from like if I have a bad day at work or someone comes in and is really rude to me or something, I'll type about it on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. And the people who are on my list will see it. And yeah, normally I put a pretty funny spin on stuff, and hell, normally it is pretty funny. There's no getting past it. But typically, like in the public eye, like on the Twitter page or the Instagram or here on YouTube, I won't talk about customers because I don't know. It seems like it'd be wrong, especially if like someone came in and did something really wacky, but then I talked about it on here and they happen to watch my videos. That I don't know. I would hate to make someone feel bad. So I definitely don't want to do that. So I won't be telling stories about customers on the YouTube channel. Now, maybe after I quit doing this someday, I'm not going to do this forever, although I have done it for 20 years this year. But when that time comes and I move on, okay, yeah, I might tell some stories. I actually write down every story. Like every time someone comes in and does something really crazy or stupid or mean or someone's inconsiderate, whatever it is, I write it down and I keep a record of things. A lot of times, in case I have a confrontation and someone goes to the mall, I want to have a document that I wrote while it was fresh in my mind, and I can say this is exactly what happened, which has come in handy a couple times. So there's that. But I have, I think, 46 or 48 pages right now of little stories. Each story is only a few lines long, maybe a paragraph long on average. So to have 45, 48, 46, whatever, I don't know how many pages I have, if I'm being honest, it's in that area, would be a lot. Who am I looking at? Andre, what's up, man? Andre, yeah. Um, Thanks for stopping by. So yeah, I don't typically do that, but who knows? In the future, maybe someday I'll walk away, and I will. Um, a lot of times, a lot of people ask me, and I can't name one specific person. People think workers are like machines. All the time, and she cries. People do abuse people who work in places like this. A funny thing is people will come in and they think I'm just the guy who works behind the counter. And I've literally had people say like, "Oh, you just work at a video game store." So, and I'm like, "Yeah, see." But one of the most common questions I get is, "What was my first video game?" And I'm not going to name specific people because multiple people have asked me this question. So I thought I would just throw these questions out there and I'll give answers and it'll be kind of an umbrella answer. So if you've asked this question, consider it like not really a shout out, but at least I'm answering your question, right? So my first game, by the way, was Adventure on the Atari 2600. I played it back in, I think it was 82. I know 82 is when I got my first console. So TH Cars and Gaming. Hey, what's up, man? And okay, so it's not a long story. It's an involved story. We were very poor. At one point, my mom and I had to stay at my aunt and uncle's house because we had no place to live. And my aunt and uncle had an Atari 2600. So it's like 81, 82. And I'm like this little kid and I'm seeing this for the first time. I'd never played a game console before. And I think I had played at that point maybe an arcade machine at my dad's bar, but that was it. And to sit down and play Adventure and make something move on the screen was this revelation to me. It was amazing. And that was my first experience with a home game console playing a video game. And Adventure is still like one of my favorite games to this day. I think it just stuck with me. It's so fun. So yeah, that was my first game ever. Oh, so how did I come up with the idea of level one games? That's another question I get. Level one games was a process. It started off not as level one at all. It started off 20 years ago. My friends Jason and Bill and I were playing video games at my friend Bill's house. We were sitting on a PS1 playing Need for Speed High Stakes. And we were racing for pink slips. We all had memory cards and we were racing our cars. And as I recall, I was killing everyone, but we were having a really good time. And we were also playing Heart of Darkness that day, which is, I think, a phenomenal game, even by today's standards. And we got to talking about Heart of Darkness, and they said, like, "Oh, where did they come up with these ideas?" And I was like, "Oh, well, this is actually like one of the ideas that they borrowed from was Flashback, Quest for Identity, and Out of This World, Delphine Software." And I started talking about these cinematic side scrollers and how they were like the first of their type and how they inspired a whole genre. And they were like, "Man, how do you know so much about video games?" And I was like, "Well, I read GamePro, like every I read Game Informer and whatever. EGM, I think at the time was real popular, and all these magazines that were popular at the time. I don't know. I don't think Game Informer was actually out back then, but and they were like, "Man, you should start a video game store." And I was like, "Man, that'd be a lot of fun." So we came up with this like kind of half-baked idea that we would play video games on the weekend at the thrift store, at the thrift market. And there was a little place called Southland Expo, and I rented a 10 by 10 booth there, and we threw some crappy wooden shelves on the wall. I grabbed my VHS collection, and I worked at a haunted house for 2 weeks, and they paid us like one cash payment of $700. And what originally was going to happen was Bill and Jason were both going to kick in as well, and we were all going to start this crazy little store. And it didn't happen that way. Bill came later on. He's like, "Dude, I got kids. I can't do this." And I was like, "It's cool. I understand, whatever." So totally acceptable. And then on the day we got our payments from the haunted house, Jason worked there with me. Jason backed out. He was like, "Dude, I got some unexpected bills, dude. I'm so sorry. I can't help." And I was like, "Well, I guess I'll just do it myself." So I went and did it myself. Funny note, the next day, Jason showed up at Bill's house with a new set of, I think they were 12-inch kicker speakers and a new amp for his Isuzu Amigo that he drove. So like his unexpected bills were a new audio system that he wanted, but I went ahead and invested my money anyway. And I knew a guy named Walt at a place called Video Giant in Whitehall, and he helped me out, got me started, introduced me to a couple people. A girl named Jen, who her father, Bert, owns Video Games Express, and she was helping me out with backstock and everything. It was just really cool. I invested that money. I had 14 games and a stackable VHS tapes, and that's what started out the business that became Level One Games. Back then, it was called Haven Games, and then no, it was called the Gamers Haven. I'm sorry, and the Gamers Haven kind of evolved and became Haven Games. When I moved to the first mall location, my first full-time location, I couldn't get the name the Gamers Haven. It had already been filed for. So I had to change the name, and I had to do it kind of on the spot because I was downtown. I was filling out the paperwork. So I just thought the Gamers Haven. That's cool. It works, and it was available. So I did it. And after much complication with the word Haven, people couldn't read the word Haven. And I'm not going to, use this as a platform for my views on education, but like Gamers Heaven is what people would always come in. Oh, Gamers Heaven, because this is like heaven for gamers. And I'm like, what? No, what? And then people would come in and say, oh, it's called Having Games. What? No, it's called Game. It just, I couldn't deal with it. It was just, So Haven Games became Level One Games. When I moved to my first location in Hilliard, I thought, I just need a store name that anyone can read, and Level One Games was it. So, and then I've even shortened it since then to L1 Games, which I've thought about actually getting a new DBA and just making a new sign, L1 Games, and putting it up there that way, because I still get people who call it Level One Gaming, and I'm just like, but they'll still get it wrong, even if it's just L1. There will be those people who get it wrong. So what am I going to do? Who am I looking at? Girls, Crazy Rockstar. Hey, what's up? Thanks for coming by. Thanks for watching. So yeah, that's anyway how we came up with the idea for Level One Games, or the Gamers Haven back in the day. Oh, what was the first arcade machine I ever played? I've had that question a few times. Donkey Kong, I think, might have been the first. I know it was a machine at my dad's bar, and I know it was probably Pac-Man, actually. My dad was a bar owner, and he would get machines in there, and I would get to go in and play them. So, yeah, it was Pac-Man. By the way, I did not prepare answers, as you can tell, for this. So, yeah, it was. I want to say Pac-Man or Donkey Kong, and I'm leaning towards Pac-Man, but it was one of those two. I remember playing them extensively at the store. Oh yeah. So I wrote down that I wanted to talk about this, and I don't know why. It just seemed like a funny story. And it came from a question someone asked, and I can't even remember what it was, but I think they asked me like my biggest regret in gaming. And then I thought about like the time I went out and I bought my 3DO, and it was, I love the 3DO. It was a revelation to me. I thought it was this fantastic experience. And I got out there, and I think I got it for $350, which, back in like 1994 was a big deal. But I passed on a PS1 to get a 3DO. So while everyone else was playing their PS1s, I had a 3DO. And I don't regret that. I think it made me root for the underdog consoles later on in life. And that, I think, has been kind of big for me. So yeah, I just thought that was a funny thing. Like, I passed on a PS1 to play 3DO. And that kind of is the story of me in gaming in general and collecting. Like, underdog consoles, the 32X, the TurboGrafx, the 3DO, the Saturn, Dreamcast, GameCube. Like, I've always enjoyed consoles that were lesser known, that didn't sell as many units. And I always stuck behind them too. Just seems like, I don't know. I don't want to say I'm like a niche gamer. I'm not. And maybe I've always just backed the wrong horse, but I don't know. I really enjoy consoles that don't have as much credit. Like, there's a whole community of people behind the Atari Jaguar. And I don't think it's because the Jaguar is this amazing system. But if you look at it, there are some really fun and cool games to play on it, especially with this homebrew market that's putting games out and everything. So there's a lot going on there too. TH Cars and Gaming. The GameCube is an awesome console. I did most underrated consoles, my 5 top underrated consoles of all time, and the GameCube was on that list. In fact, there were a lot of really great underrated Nintendo consoles, right? I think the Wii U is another one that, just I think it's shaping itself up to be a very collectible system in the future too, especially since there's nothing backwards compatible with its games. So, but yeah, the GameCube has this amazing game library, and I don't know. I love that you can play the games on the Wii also. So, you guys love the Wii U also? See? I'm not the only one. I think I predicted the Wii U was going to be this massive hit, so I feel pretty stupid about that. But it really was a great idea. The gamepad, if it wasn't tethered to the console, I think it would have done a lot better. They basically should have done what they did with the Switch back then, but they didn't. And, it led to kind of a failed console. But Nintendo made money on the Wii U, so it's not like it was this horrible flop that cost Nintendo. And even if it was, Nintendo made so much on handhelds, I don't think it would have hurt them in the long run. But yeah, my 5 most underrated consoles were, and I'm going off the top of my head here, I think it was the Wii U, the GameCube, the Saturn, the Dreamcast, and the 3DO. It might have been those. Yeah, you go back and look at my channel and you'll see. And if I just got it wrong, that's, I don't know, unacceptable really, because I should know. We bought a white Wii U because they made so few of them. I just got a white one for my collection too, so I'm really happy about that. I realized late in the game, like, wow, that's really the one to have, because they stopped production of them pretty early, and then they only sold the 32 gig after that. So, yeah, I not too long ago, it's actually somewhere back here on the wall, my white Wii U, and I have oh, there it is. I'll show you. So I keep a lot of stuff here at the store. White Wii U, yuck, Andre, that's not nice. So there's my white Wii U that I added to my collection. What I do is that back here in the back of the store, I actually keep a bunch of stuff. So, like, everything on that top shelf is pretty much for my collection. And I also have here for my collection. Don't be laughing, Andre. It's not funny. I have an original Odyssey for my collection. I'm kind of out of space at home for some of the stuff from my personal collection, so I stocked some up here on the shelves. That Odyssey 2 is mine. There, that's a boxed Aquarius, an Amiga 500. It's cool to take a tour with this tripod because I can raise it up and show you guys all kinds of stuff. Like, this is the high view of the store. Okay. Ours came out of a Wii U kiosk. Oh, that's interesting. Does it have any kind of special marking? It's the up high view of the store that you never get to see. That's not typical of a live stream, is it? Not that you could tell. I know for some of the old school Ataris, they actually had a really cool thing. Now I'm just totally off topic. Now I'm just going to show you this. So this is an Atari 2600 that was for promotional use. And on the back of them, they actually had that burned into them. Not for resale. So kind of a cool thing for promotional use only. And the only way to really tell that it's one of these consoles is that it says that on the back, and the switches are actually kind of glossy. I don't know if you can really tell in this video, but they're not the same matte chrome that you see on typical switches. They have kind of a glossy finish to them. And those were the promotional systems that they sent out. I don't know why or what they were used for. I assume they were used for kiosks. So, yeah, that's it. Anyone else have any questions? I mean, since we're here, since I'm answering stuff and I'm totally off topic, like, ask me some questions and I'll answer anything about the store, anything that I do. But I did resume the video here, so sorry about that, guys. Do I have any Yoshi items at the store? I might have still some of the Yoshi plushies, but those are the only Yoshi items I had. So I don't know if I still have those or not. I try to get plushies and stuff whenever I can, because especially during the holiday, those are big sellers. So, but in general, like through any of my distributors, licensed Nintendo stuff seems to be really hard to hold on to. So I don't get a whole lot of that. I get more licensed, like even Sega stuff, oddly, Mega Man stuff, things like that. But yeah, anything Nintendo is hard to get hold of. So Yoshi items in general, I don't see as much of. Any other questions? Anything? Anyone? Anyone? Um, in terms of my collecting, I can talk about collecting a little bit. I uh, I have now been collecting as long as I've been in business. So just before I opened up my first location, I started like collecting. I made a kind of a promise that I was never going to sell or trade a game ever again. And I've kept that promise since 1999, 98. I haven't sold or traded a game. The last game I traded in and I felt really bad about was actually Panzer Dragoon Saga. And I got nothing for it. I'm sure the guy saw me coming from like a mile away, and I probably got, I want to say it was like $5 or $10 for it. And that was at GameStop. Well, back then it was EB Games, right? But it was EB Games at Eastland Mall. And anyone in this area will know just how crappy that is. Eastland Mall is a terrible place. But yeah, I found out maybe a yearish later. So I think it happened in 98, right? I got the game when it first came out. I traded it in shortly after I played it and thought I'd get something new and cool. And later on, I wanted to pick up the game and play through it again. And I found out how much it was worth. And I just, after that, I promised I was never going to sell or trade a game again. And that's something I'm consistent with. If I take it home and it goes into the collection, it goes onto the list. I have spreadsheets. And once it's on the list, it never leaves the collection again. So, yeah. If I had the resources to start a game company of any size, what would I have them make? Ideas for games you wish existed. Geez. Is it still EB there? That's crazy. I didn't know that. Man. I mean, I like sandbox games. So my dream game would be something sandbox. Maybe with, if you've ever played Crackdown or Saints Row 4, I love the abilities. My go-to game, if I was going to create a game like right now, I would love to do a Daredevil game. No one ever did a great Daredevil game, and I would build it on the Assassin's Creed engine. Like it just seems like it lends itself to that, and instead of these European like locations and everything that you see in Assassin's Creed, I would do it and it would just be Manhattan, right? Hell's Kitchen. You would have modern contemporary skyscrapers and buildings and brownstones and all that type stuff, and it would be Daredevil instead of Ezio or whatever character from whichever Assassin's Creed game you love. But yeah, I would do that, or a Crow game. The Crow would also lend itself well to that kind of gameplay. So yeah, I definitely think Daredevil though, because the Eagle sight, you would do your blind man's radar vision, whatever. Daredevil has a radar, but yeah, I think that might be like that game in a sandbox style. Yeah, I'd be totally hyped up for something like that. A Road Rash game would be, by the way, I just saw someone commented about Road Rash, would be an amazing new game to do. And we haven't seen one in a long time, I don't think. So yeah, I'd love to see a Road Rash game. But yeah, I don't know. So back to my collecting, unless I get another question. For the last 20 years or so, I've kind of just been a wide open collector. Like I don't focus on anything. I think that's actually one of my biggest problems. I can't focus. I have such a wide like video game interest horizon that I can't keep my eye on the ball. I don't have a complete set of anything after 20 years. I have a bunch of Saturn, I have a bunch of Dreamcast, I have a bunch of Sega CD. I don't have a single complete Sega set of anything at all though. And I think I might be getting close. So I think I'm doing a remodel on the house right now, and I'll be building a game room soon. And I've been saying this for ages, but it's true. And once I get everything back out and on display, I want to focus on Saturn and 3DO. I really would love to have a full 3DO set, but I think Dino Park Tycoon will be like the one game that eludes me. I think they go for like $1,000 right now, and I don't want to spend $1,000 on a game. That's just crazy. But with Saturn, I have most of like the grails, like the high end stuff that everyone wants. And I've just been lucky. The most I've ever paid for a Saturn game is $80. That was for a new copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga that I got back in like I want to say 2006, 2005, and I got just a great deal off a guy. I think back then they were averaging about 110, so I saved like $30 and I got it, and it's been in my collection ever since. So uh, yeah, Saturn I think is within my grasp, but 3DO not so much. And yeah, I think that's it. So 26 minutes. Anyone have another question before I get out of here? We can close this out at like 30 minutes. If you do, throw it up there and I'll answer. Uh, yeah. So I think I answered some good questions about the store, common stuff that people ask me. Um, I will talk about this. There was a time where I didn't game, and a lot of people don't know that. I spent probably 4 years, pretty much my entire high school career, not gaming. So that was from 89 to 92, 88 to 92, really. My freshman year started in 88. Um, Back then, it was just like, it wasn't very cool to be a gamer back then. So I didn't want people to like look at me like not cool or whatever. I had a hard enough time at school. Like I was relentlessly bullied when I was in middle school and everything. So when it came to high school, like I did everything and anything I could to be cool. And gaming just wasn't on the table back then. Nowadays, everyone, everyone, hey, Oak City Gamers, what's up? Welcome. Thanks for watching. Um, Nowadays, everyone, it's kind of a status symbol. It's like back then it was, do you have a game console? Do you have a Nintendo? Do you have a Super Nintendo? But today it's, which game console do you have, right? Everyone has a game console now. And I think you might even be kind of like ostracized for not having a game console. Like in the past, you got ostracized for having one at all. Gamers back then were typically like viewed as gamer nerds, basement dwellers, geeks. And I didn't want to appear that way, so I didn't game at all. You were a loser in school also. Stopped when I had my kid, big mistake. Um, I never stopped, even after I had my kid. But yeah, it's a funny thing. I actually started gaming again after I joined the military. And I graduated in 92 and 93, March of 93. Losers represent. What's up, Mars? And I was at Fort Sam Houston, Texas on active duty. It was, I forget what month. It was always hot down there. So I can't tell you like what season it was, but it was sometime in 1993. And there was a place called the Hacienda that we used to go to. They had like pool tables and everything. Just turned 50 and I've collected a nice collection, but realized I won't be able to take it to old folks' home. When is it time to sell? That's a personal issue, man. You're just going to have to decide that on your own. I say don't ever go to an old folks' home. Don't ever sell. But we were at the Hacienda. We played video games, pool. They had everything down there. It was a really cool place. And these guys came to me one time and they were like, dude, we want to play this video game and we need one last person. We're going to have a tournament. And I was like, I used to play video games. I'll check it out. So I went with them, and it was this new game called Mortal Kombat. They had this arcade Mortal Kombat machine there, and they needed someone to play Kano. And no one wanted to play as Kano. And it turned out I loved Kano. I thought Kano was an amazing character. So they got me back into gaming. I mean, it was really that easy. One day of playing Mortal Kombat, and that's the whole reason I'm here right now. I mean, it all started back on that Atari I talked about earlier, right? An adventure back in 1982. And it ends with me here today. But I think that was a defining moment when I played Mortal Kombat, because I don't know that I would have gotten back into gaming. I don't know if I would have found that I loved gaming again if I hadn't played Mortal Kombat back then. Another funny story, going back to that Atari, is, like I said, we were really poor, and my mom and I um, stayed with my aunt, and I played that Atari in that adventure game. And that Christmas, my aunt and uncle gave that Atari to my mom to give to me for Christmas. So that was actually my first console, as well as the first console I ever played. My car, fill the trunk with the games. You want to be buried in your car? That would be a big plot. They'd have to really dig deep. Um, marquee on all. Sorry, I couldn't read it all. It's really small print over here. I'm actually on my phone, so I'm just kind of leaning in trying to read messages. But you're always digging deep. Yeah, I guess so. Um, I do love my car too. I call it the car that video games bought, my new Mustang. And yeah, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that Atari. But then if it weren't for that Mortal Kombat experience while I was on active duty, so yeah, that's kind of a fun little thing that I like to go back to. People say, like what made you who you are, and those are actually the two experiences that I think back on that made me into a gamer and then brought me back to gaming. It's kind of a funny thing. That's why I am where I'm at today. So look, I'm gonna jump off of here. I'm gonna get back to work. I actually shut the doors. Seems like the only thing. Digging holes. 68 Buick Skylark. Ooh, nice. I don't have anything classic. I just have my little 2017 Mustang. So we'll get them all one day. And my daughter says, will I get your game someday? And I'm like, that's morbid, man. Don't ask me that. Are you like, what's wrong with you? Of course she will, but the rule will be you can't sell them. You can inherit my games, but you're not allowed to sell them. Can you write that into a will? I don't know if that's what you can do. So that's what I'm going to try, at least. I would hate my collection to be separated. I kind of like to think of myself as the curator of my own video game museum, So I would hope my collection always stays together, and then like it'll go to someone who then adds to it and just becomes bigger and better than I could have ever made it. So we'll see. Well, you'll see. I won't see. I'll be gone, won't I? Oh, that's morbid. I don't even want to think about that. Oh, Lord, adjusting your will. Yeah, I agree, man. I might be doing that myself. But look, I gotta get out of here, guys. Thanks so much for coming by. Thanks for your comments and questions and everything. I'm gonna get back to work. I actually shut the store down just to come back and shoot this video because, like I said, I wasn't gonna be able to edit or anything, and I wanted to drop some content this week. So I'm out of here. Peace out, man. Thanks for coming by, and I will catch you all later. Oh, by the way, if you haven't already, Twitter, L1 Games, Instagram, L1Muzz. That's L1MUZZ. Facebook, the L1 Games groups. Check me out on all those places. And I'm gone. I will see you all soon. Lunch break live stream. It's kind of exactly what this is. So I'm out of here. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you all later. And now I just got to figure out how to turn the live stream off because I've never done it. Hey, Steve. See you soon. I hope that means you're coming by the store. We got to talk about tables for the show. I can definitely hook you up, but you got to let me know. So I'm out of here, guys. Take it easy. Won't let the live stream turn off. All right, I'm turning off streaming now. So that's it, guys. Take it easy.